Okay, everything's finally working. I got all the stupid shit figured out. We're back here on the toilet zone. It's gonna be a short video because I'm fucking sick. And yeah, we're repping Dealers of God today. Go check out Dealer's Choice, album of the fucking year. And I get a lot of messages, or you know, a few at least, saying, hey, you should redo another classic Memphis track. If you remember a while back, I redid a Mr. Maceo beat. It's kind of fun picking apart songs like that and just kind of putting yourself in that producer's place and saying, hey, you know what, it's 1995, I'm Tommy Wright III, God willing, and this is what I'm working with technology-wise. So it's kind of like, you know, forces your brain to think like, you know, if I was to turn this thing on, factory reset on one of these machines, what would my ears have landed on? So I thought it would be more interesting to do something a little off-brand. So I picked this track, Ridin with the Pistol Grip by Lil Ramsey, produced by Tommy Wright, according to all the info I can find. There was another producer credited as like behind the scenes on some of this era of Tommy Wright's tracks, but we're just gonna say it's a Tommy production. It doesn't sound exactly like a lot of his stuff from that era, but that's because it's made on different equipment. There was some stuff when I went into this I was like, oh, of course they did this, but when I got down to it I was like, no, there's an extra drum hit there. So I'll play a little bit of the track here.
On the check, I'm making things, no more petty deals. Catch a nigga slipping, then I click and grab the y'all and black. Voices in my mind, and the bitch screaming, killer man, schizophrenic.
So if you are sitting there going, hey, that doesn't sound like the snare on the 660, you were right, this is not a 660 track. To my ears, all of the drums come from the Alesis SR16, which was same era, very cheap, kind of easy to use. I don't know, I think these, you know, I prefer the HR16. This one has cooler sounds, but like the fucking HR is so much easier to write on. This thing is confusing, but it's very clear to me that that's what the drum sounds are from. So let's go a little closer with the gear that I'm using here, and let's kind of pick this track apart. Okay, so like I said, it was on the Alesis SR16 that I am pretty sure these drums were made. They have very distinct sounds, and it has this kind of weird knockoff 808 kit, and that is for sure the sounds that we are pulling from here. And I could play it right now so you can kind of hear. So here's the beat again.
Feeling from Magnolia, but they caught that caught it one time. Baby on.
There's a couple sounds towards the end that are very distinctive and pretty much could only come from this machine. So getting into this, the only thing I was confused about was at first I was like, okay, you know, the Alesis machines up until the SR18 did not have basses on them, so there's no way that that bass could have come from this. Knowing Tommy, he had a DR5 on hand, and so what I meant by very distinct sounds is, so we go here to the outro and we'll hear a couple fill patterns that are completely different from the rest of the beat. Okay, so there you heard it. There's some weird sounds in there. That is one of them. That is the wet clav from this machine. I thought it was the cold block, which sounds really similar, but you can't pitch it up quite enough. So I'm pretty sure it's that sound. And then you heard the toms there. Yeah, the ambient toms. Those have a very distinct sound. All the toms kind of have a similar sound, so it's really just kind of listening and being like, okay, I think it's the ambient tom there. But either way, all of these are basically the stock pitches, except for that one, we have it pitched down a little bit. But everything else is stock. And so just to show you what I mean here, that's the wet clav. The kick is the rap kick. The snare is the low rap snare, and then we're just using the closed hat and the open hat. I think there might be another cymbal going off in there, and we'll kind of get to that and figure that out eventually. And then of course we got in the background there, let's go back to the track here.
Man, kill it, we'll fuck on the check, I'm making things, no more petty deals.
We've got that conga going on, and so that, based on the pitch and, you know, just turning this thing on and not adjusting anything, it's this dynamic conga. I'm pretty sure that's the sound we got there. And then that's pretty much it, except for, like I said, I think that there might be another cymbal that comes in. But yeah, so that's what I was talking about with those fills, is that the end of that pattern does not have a snare hit, so it doesn't go like that, you know what I mean? You know, and there's a snare hit that carries over into the fills. So I'm pretty sure he wrote 2 patterns, and then instead of writing a song, this machine is really easy to just kind of go up, you know, go up a pattern, and it'll tell you what it's going to play next. So I'm pretty sure that he just goes between these 2 patterns, and then the second pattern, I think he used these fill buttons here, because we got 2 fills, and there's 2 different fills that happen. Additionally, something that's really cool about this machine that, for fuck's sake, why didn't anybody else think to do this? You can copy the individual sounds in a pattern. So say you write, I think I went through this before with the HR16 or in a video, whatever. But so if you program your bass and you're like, oh, you know, I kind of want to double that kick with maybe a little snappier kick in the background, you can copy and paste that to any one of these pads. And so there's some cymbal hits in there that make me think Tommy maybe copied his kick pattern and pasted it on an open hi-hat so that it hits every time the kick hits. Not sure on that, and you know, I'm kind of going to program stuff and then see if it sounds close to the beat, and then we'll go back and change it if we need to. But yeah, so that's the sounds. And then over here we're using finger bass number 1 on the DR5. Again, I don't know for sure that that's what he did. It would be a simple workaround for getting a bass on a track. But my guess is he used either this or some other cheap synth and then just played the bass line as he was going and kind of made up a couple fills, because there's a couple parts where like it doesn't quite sound like a quantized pattern. So probably that, you know, it's pretty easy, especially on a 4-track, to cover up your mistakes if you're going to play like that, you know, and not have it match to the grid. So I would guess it's something like that. And then finally, you might have noticed there are a couple samples there at the end. So those are from the Smoked Out, Loked Out, that original 666 Mafia track that they sampled so much. Like every line there has been used as a hook. And you know, Tommy is no stranger to that. So those 2 samples, I use the SU10 because it is an affordable sampler from that era. Not sure what sampler he would have used, probably a Gemini. But again, you know, we're using a lot of off-brand gear here, so possibly that day, you know, Tommy was in somebody else's studio, just threw together a quick beat on what was available. And it's very clearly recorded on tape, but you know, that could have been recorded on a DAT and dubbed on a tape. Who fucking knows? I would guess a 4-track, but I am going to use the Tascam Porta Studio 488 8-track recorder, because somebody messaged me saying that I should kind of do a walkthrough of this too, because it's sort of confusing doing the 4-track recording. So gonna kind of get 2 birds stoned at once and use this to record it. So what I've got going on here is I've got the Alesis SR16 going into these first 2 as a stereo pair, going into 1 and 2 there. Then in track 3, that is where I've got the Boss DR5, and we're just using the left mono out because it's just a bass. We don't need to stereo pair that up. Then right there 4, that is just my phone going in there to be able to play the beat, but we're going to switch it out with the sampler once we start recording and once we get everything matched up. And then the other one is just the microphone I'm talking into. So we got everything routed into here. I've even got the effects send that I normally do. We're using the compressor, why not? I feel like it's pretty likely Tommy would have had a cheap compressor on hand, or just the tape compression, so you know, from hitting the tape really hard. So that's what we're doing here with this particular machine. If anybody has this one, and it is similar to the like the 464 and the 424, like the Tascam 4-tracks, where you've got you know, your EQ and then your effects send. So here's what we got going on. These 2, I just have a flat EQ, I'm not doing anything there, and I have them both going through the compressor. So as you can see, this knob here, so if you have it up here, it's not going through any effect. If you go the further this way you go, it's going to be further towards effect 1, and the other way it's further towards effect 2. I'm only using one effect, so that's all we got. And I've just got it panned hard left, hard right. And then the other ones I don't have panned yet because I don't think there's much panning in this track. It's very limited as far as sounds go, and it's pretty much just one vocal track too. You know, there's not even any overdubbing, so definitely a 4-track recording, I would guess. And then this machine has 2 groups, so that is how, you know, you can only record tracks 1, 2, 5, and 6 on groups 1 and 2, and then 3, 4, and 7 and 8 on to groups 3 and 4. It's a little confusing, but it makes sense when you think of this machine. Basically, it is a 4-track that just splits the tape even further. So, you know, you got your tape going like that way, you know, across the tape head, and then it would be divided lengthwise into a bunch of little sections, which is why these do not actually sound as good as a 4-track. You know, you're using less space on the tape. It would be basically like recording a video in a lower frame rate or, you know, lower quality so that you can fit more on your memory card or some shit like that. It doesn't sound as good as a 4-track, and this one has some pitch issues, which is why I don't use it a lot. But yeah, so down here, you know, this just arms the track. You know, if you press that, it's gonna record. There's some shit with like when you're multi-track recording, like if stuff's set to mix instead of group, it's just gonna all record, you know. But so you have to kind of like mess with that, and it's just kind of trial and error. I honestly don't remember super well because it's been a while since I used this, but I'm pretty sure that if you have stuff set to mix, it's going to record no matter what when you hit record. But if you have it set to groups, it's only going to record that. So like basically, if I was to record these drums by themselves on tracks 1 and 2 here, then I would want to immediately put these up to 0 or to Q, which is the headphone send, when I'm recording other stuff, because otherwise if you have it set to mix, you know, it seems intuitive, you want to be able to hear it, but it's going to record on the next track you arm for some reason. It's not that difficult once you get into it. And then these are the effect sends, so I've got the level set there. This one is how much you send through the effect, and then this one up here is like how loud the return is. So down here we got the effect send that's going into the compressor, and then it goes out into this 910 track here, which doesn't, you know, there's no number down here that correlates to it. It's just letting you know that you know, it's just another way to get more sounds. So you could run something into there and record it at the same time as one of these other tracks. But basically we have effects, we have the return going to group 1/2, so that way you guys can hear it, because if you look down here, this is the output. It doesn't have a master out, it has a group out, so I want everything on groups 1 and 2, even though that's probably not how I would record it. But that way you guys can hear everything I'm doing. So that is, I don't know, that's pretty much how this thing works. You'll kind of see more once I start recording. So the first thing I did was I assessed the tempo of the track by playing it and then setting this into compose mode. So it's got compose, which is when you're recording, and it's got perform, which is when it's just playing back. So, but if you're in compose, it's got the click track. I matched that up to the song, and it's 150 BPM.
Man, kill it, we'll fuck on the track, I'm making signs, no more petty deals, catch a nigga slipping, then I click and grab the y'all and black voices in my mind, and the bitch screaming killer man, schizophrenic feeling from Magnolia, but they caught it one time, fabbing on that track, the hoe wanna know who shot them, but ain't nothing said, nothing heard, ain't no sauce to drop, real niggas game for a thing from the old block, taking care of business, dumping.
Don't know if you could see that, but I just this is a pattern that I've already used, and I set the length to 16 beats since that's what it sounds like this one is. So that's all that this is. I'm just setting that up, setting the quantize to 1/8 notes. I don't want it quite so fast as 16th notes because the cymbals are kind of slow.
And the bitch screaming killer man, schizophrenic feeling from Magnolia, but they caught it. black. Voices in my mind and the bitches screaming killer man. Schizophrenic feeling from Magnolia, but they call that cop. One time, been on that track, them hoe wanna know who shot them, but ain't nothing said, nothing heard, ain't no sauce to drop. Real your health.
Niggas talking shit, you might well say they killed they damn self. We don't start shit, but we ain't born shit, now this our rep. It's gonna be some bullets shot, a whole lot of shells drop.
Caught it one time, they been on that track, them hoe wanna know who shot them, but ain't nothing said, nothing heard, ain't no sauce to drop. Real niggas game for what's thing from. Every move, that chip on my shoulder, man. This that they call the food, the feeling that's in my veins. Just telling me to join the clique, to become a member, man. He's telling me to kill a bitch and be like my father, man. Cause the killer is in my blood. I'm stuck in this situation on that medicine. I know it's bud, I smoke blunt cause they even, man. This is riding with the pistol grip. Real ass killers, to pull the trigger. Riding with the pistol, riding with the pistol grip. Real ass killers, to pull the trigger. Riding with the pistol, riding with the pistol, real ass killers, to pull the trigger. Riding with the pistol, riding with the pistol grip. Riding with the pistol grip. To pull the real ass killers. Riding with the pistol, riding with the pistol grip. Real ass killers, to pull the trigger. Riding with the pistol, riding with the pistol grip. Real ass killers, to pull the trigger. Riding with the pistol grip.
I think I'm actually just gonna play the bass and the samples live. This machine, the Alesis, has like A and B for each pattern. So, you know, technically it's like double the amount of patterns. And then you've got fills too, which I'm kind of figuring out are kind of weird and don't fucking work quite right. But I'm still pretty sure that's what was used in this track, was the fill button to make those kind of two things happen towards the end there. So basically, I think instead of writing a song, what was more likely done was just kind of clicking between the two patterns and the A and B, since that's, you know, less time consuming than writing an entire song, especially if you're not sure what you're doing, you know, you're just trying to get an idea down. This track definitely has the vibe of Tommy just trying to get this idea down. You know, maybe he was hanging out with Ramsey that day and was just like, we're going to do a song no matter what. You know, or like I said, they're in the studio with somebody else's equipment. Any number of possibilities. But basically, that's what I'm going to do, is just kind of go through selecting the patterns back and forth, play the bass to it, then play the sample to it. So yeah, let's just build this track up. So as you saw, I kind of did the rhythm track, just clicking through the patterns, like I was saying. Then I just played the bass track live off of here, just trying to match up as best I could. And, you know, I'm pretty sure that's how this track would have been made anyways, so that's kind of fitting. And I did the same thing with the sample off here. I just pitched it until it matched the tempo, which is 150 BPM. And then I just played it live, alternating between the samples. And, you know, it only appears at that end part, but that doesn't mean somebody wasn't playing it the whole time through and then just muted it. In fact, I would guess that somebody probably did, you know, just kind of as practice, so that when it came to that part where you wanted it, you hit it, like, dead on, you know. What I got going on here is a little different than what I had set up at first. The mic's just running in there. I recorded the Alesis as a stereo pair on 1 and 2 here, panned out hard left, hard right, and then I've got some compression from the effects end going there. Then I also, so it's like with this thing, you use like inputs 1 and 2 also for tracks 5 and 6, and then 3 and 4 for 7 and 8. And these two are the ones are the line and mic inputs, so they have more gain on them. So if you want, you know, louder stuff, and that's what it was an issue of, was the DR5 just doesn't get loud enough on its own to like drown out the tape hiss. So I used 1, 2, and then 5 and 6 for the bass and sample respectively. And then yeah, I'll just play it through, and then you can kind of hear I got everything going through the compressor. It just kind of makes everything blend a little more. And as far as the EQ, I just cut the lows almost all the way out on that sample, so that kick in there isn't kind of messing up. And then with the bass, you know, we'll just boost the lows a little bit, make it nice and bassy, and then I've got the highs kind of cranked on the drums just to make those cymbals stand out a little more. So let's hear what this shit sounds like. So hopefully that answered some of your questions about the 4 tracks and 8 tracks and how you go about recording on those. And then hopefully it was also cool to see the Alesis in action. You know, it's a little different than the DR660, but it has its own merits. Like always, send me tracks. If you want me to do a little visual at the end, send those to me, depressivetongueposse@gmail.com, or on Instagram at MrFix. I'll catch you guys in the next video, whenever the hell that is.